proper drink, mate.
That was smooth.
Smooth criminal. So, season's done. Started off a bit rocky. Building up St George, training was going absolutely awesome. And then just before South Africa, or around this time of South Africa, I caught COVID. Did the race, didn't know I had it at the race, but I definitely wasn't feeling quite right. I got onto the run and it was just grim. Like, I think I've gone over that in another video, but obviously came back, tested positive, and then missed St George in May. And then after that, I kind of thought, what do I do now? Should I just go all in and try and get a race in June, July and just try and rush the training? Or should I just accept that the first part of the season is going to be kind of gone, partly due to me getting married on the 2nd of July. And the plan was to have a bit of downtime after that, you know, go on a mini moon, and obviously with the stag party leading into that. So I kind of thought I haven't really got time to get into top fitness, so I'll just build up for Kona and I'll make the second part of the season really good. So the plan was Ironman Wales in September, Kona in October, and then hopefully another Ironman in November if I was feeling good, which turns out I just hung on to and had a good enough fitness for, so managed to finish the year with Ironman Arizona, and that topped out a really good year with first at Wales, 5th in Kona, and then first again in Arizona, so I can be really pleased with that. And then obviously doing sub 7 in June, kind of like topped the season off nicely. To be honest, I'd say my year really turned after getting COVID in April with the sub 7, because I wasn't planning to do it. Obviously Alistair was meant to be the main man for the job, and then with him pulling out and me getting the last minute call up, I didn't really know what to expect, but it went a lot better than what I planned, and that was kind of like the turning point in the year really for me after that. And then, you know, if I take the last part of the season with that thrown in there as well, it's actually a pretty solid year, to be fair.
So what do you think your toughest race was this year?
Oh, good question. Toughest race, definitely Kona. Partly for me due to the fact that, well, I guess you could say because everyone's there. It's the World Championships, it gets all the big hitters there. And for me, dealing with the heat's always a massive thing. You know, I did learn a lot from Kona this year, which I'll probably go into at another time, because there's just so much to say in terms of like how I could prepare better for it, what I need to do, how I could race better in it, just a lot of things that I could like adjust with my training and my preparation leading into the race, partly with where I train, you know, not going to Kona beforehand, and even like down to like how much time I spend on TT bike, road bike. There's so many things that I've learned throughout the season, especially with the preparation for Kona this year, that I'll take into next year's Kona, which I think will enable me to get a lot better performance. But the heat in that race for me, I really struggle with. You know, I flip and die. You know, I'm like 80 kilos. I sweat like hell in like in humid conditions in England when it's like 15 Celsius and 12 Celsius in the winter. So for me, 30 degrees, humid as anything, you know, I'd die in that. Like that's not the weather for me. So that is definitely the hardest race, because yeah, it's just a big slog for me from the word go.
So in Arizona, like I watched, a lot of people watched. I was in the chat, the YouTube chat. There were so many supporters for you. I'd say...
You weren't stirring it up, were you?
No, I didn't talk at all. Tom was in there on the Triathlon Mockery channel. He was talking to everyone. I would say at least 95% of the comments were all supporting you, so that was great to see. Everyone was wondering, when you passed Christian, was it? On the run? Was
Christian Hugenhaug, yeah.
Why didn't you junkyard dog him?
You know what? I was thinking about doing that. I did junkyard dog some people on the bikes, like Andy and Ben when I caught them. But I guess part of it was come down to I didn't feel that great on the run. I was a bit smashed and I didn't know whether or not he was going to come with me. And I was kind of a bit in the zone. And I was just thinking, you know, I was just really in the zone. And when I put the move in, I thought he was going to come with me because he looked pretty good. He was leading into the headwind. And I thought he was going to come with me for the first couple of kilometres, 2 or 3 Ks. And I was just in the zone really. I'm concentrating on my own like effort level. And I think it's easier to junkyard dog people earlier in the race when you feel a lot better. But when you get towards like 6 hours of the Ironman, you're feeling a bit smashed. And you've been running head to head for a bit. You kind of don't want to mess it up. And if you did do the junkyard dog and like at that point and then you end up losing it, you're kind of a bit of a dick, aren't you? Like, to be fair. But I thought he was going to come with me. And I was kind of running through strategies in my head. If he comes with me, how long will I keep the pace on? Will I up it even more to try and drop him to get him to fade? Or will I sit back a bit more and wait a bit longer before I put a move in? I was also weighing up what I would do depending on how the chasers were going as well, trying to get splits off like people around the course, my parents and like other people that were watching. And if the gap to them started coming down too much, then obviously you'd have to go a lot earlier than what you wanted to. So I was kind of weighing up a load of different options with where people were chasing me, how Christian looked, the pace we were running at, and there was just so much to think about really. So the race went really well. Obviously managed to get the win, but I'll take you back to the swim start. The water absolutely freezing. They let us get in about 10 minutes beforehand, and I made the mistake last time when I got here in 2018 of not going in the water prior to the race because it was really cold, and that was actually a bad move because as soon as we started you kind of get the shock of the cold water, and I could feel it was like brain freeze and then struggling to breathe a bit, like hyperventilating. So I knew I needed to get in the water even though it felt horrible. So got in, did some sprints, did a bit of easy swimming, got used to the brain freeze, and then eventually went. And then the first buoy was about 50 metres ahead, and in the pro briefing before the race, one of the pros wanted to get it changed and have a longer lead into the first buoy. They actually wanted to start the second buoy, so it was just a straight run. But the organisation said, well, you'll be cutting 100 metres or 150 metres off the swim course if we do that. So we're not going to do that. We'll start you a bit further back. Whether or not they did or didn't, I don't know. It seemed like it's still a very short distance, 40 metres, if that, 50. I was actually really pleased about that because I've got a good takeout speed. So I was actually licking my lips thinking, yes, this is great. I'll be able to get a good sprint to the buoy. I don't care if I go around the buoy slow because everyone else behind me, due to the concertina effect, will have to go even slower, which means that they'll have more of an acceleration to get back up to speed after the buoy. So actually, I think you ideally want to go to the buoy hard, slow around the buoy, but then as soon as you go around it, kick out because of the line. The people that are getting into the buoy later have to slow down even more, and then the elastic stretches out even more. So I kind of went in there hard, slowed down a bit around the buoy, and then pushed it a bit harder. Got to the second buoy, which was about 100 metres later, and you had another right angle turn, so 90-degree right turn, and I managed to get to that in about 5th place, something like that, 4th or 5th place I think. Andy and Ben had gone at this point, so I was 2nd or 3rd place in the front pack. I say pack, like the first, obviously Andy and Ben were like the front kind of pack, but there's only 2 of them, so we were the first big group. So I got there in about 2nd or 3rd position in the group, and then after that right turn, it was probably 2k, 2 and a bit kilometres, wet straight line. So I knew if I got there in a good position, I'd probably only have to hold on for about 300 or 400 metres, and then it would probably calm down. It did calm down for a bit. I don't know how long. I think it was longer than that though, where the pace felt quite hard. But then it calmed down and felt mega easy. And I was thinking, this is definitely a bit slow, but I'm with a big group, so I'm not too bothered. But then someone picked the pace up a bit, and then you had like 2 right-hand turns before the final 600 metres, I guess, 500-600 metres to transition. It started to split up a bit there. I was kind of hanging on, and in my head I was debating, do I carry on here? Do I put a lot of effort in to stay in this group? I could tell I was burning a few matches. I was on the limit, to be honest, in the water. Or should I just cruise it in at my own pace? But I decided to burn a few matches because I couldn't see Sam, because I knew he was wearing a pink hat and I couldn't see that. So I thought maybe I'm probably ahead of him. I don't know if he's on my feet or anything, but if he is behind me, this is a great time to put a bit of time into him. And if I have to start the bike a bit slow, I can start the bike a bit slow, get my breath back, and then kind of push on, and then he'll have to burn a few more matches to catch me, and hopefully he'll catch me later on the bike and I'll be fresh enough to go with him, and then on the run hopefully I've got the legs for that. That was in my head, my thoughts. So got out the group, literally just towards the back of that group. Matt Hansen was in it, Christian Hugenhaug was in it, Ruben, very fast cyclist, he was in it, and a few others. And then through transition, my transition wasn't great. I was puffing, to be honest, a bit through that, and I was pleased to get out of the water, but I was definitely breathing pretty hard. But got out onto the bike, and then just worked pretty hard. I could see Christian Hugenhaug a bit further ahead of me, and I knew he's a decent cyclist from experience of racing him in the past. and obviously seeing his results. So I thought, well, if I can get with him and us two can work hard together, we could probably be right up there starting the run. This is a great opportunity. So I worked pretty hard, tried to make it so other people didn't really come with me, so I could. So I had a bit of a buffer, with just two of us, because when you get quite a few people, they can tend to sit in and save their effort and not do any work, and then you end up towing them, and it kind of ruins the dynamic a bit. But when there's just two of you working hard, it's in both your interests to keep it going. So got to Christian, I actually saw a couple of people ahead, and I thought that was the first people from our pack that had a really good swim and then hit it hard on the bike. So I was thinking, bloody hell, like they've gone really hard at the start of the bike. We'll try and catch them, and then we can work together to try and catch the leaders. And then once I got about 20 seconds away from them, I realised, bloody hell, it weren't the leaders, like in our pack. It was actually the leaders of the whole race. So all of a sudden, we'd bridged the 3 minutes to the front two in about 25 kilometres, which was awesome. I said to them, this is the key bit in the race kind of thing. I said, let's do 5 minute turns on the front, keep the pace going, but not kill ourselves. So we did 5 minutes. I did 5 minutes. Ben did 5 minutes. Andy was on his 5 minutes on the downhill from the turn, and then all of a sudden Christian just went flying past full gas, and really broke it up. And I saw Andy kind of debating, do I go, do I not? And I thought, I'm just going to go for it. I'll go with him. I didn't quite close the gap because he was setting a really tough pace, and it would have took a lot of power, especially because it was downhill with a tailwind, to close it. So I thought, I don't really want to burn that many matches on a downhill where I'm not really getting the time into the others, so I'll wait until we get to the headwind and finally close the gap up there. Close the gap just after the turn, and me and him were away, and that was kind of the story of the bike. We just took 5-10 minute turns the whole way round on the bike, literally 100 from the turn around there. It was 120 k's to go, and it was just head down doing that. Worked absolutely fantastic. Bit of traffic on the second and third lap with the age groupers, but not much to say really, just too many people on the course, and it was quite dangerous in parts, but thankfully we didn't get taken down in a crash. I don't know if anyone else did, but it could do with having a few less people on there. But got to the run, Christian had about 15 seconds on me. He kept it on the power all the way to the end of the bike. I kind of came off the power a bit just to let my legs freshen up a bit and just kind of easy spin in to get the heart rate down before I started the run. And then when we started the run, he had about 20 seconds. It took me about 4.5 k's to close it to him. I wasn't really trying to close too quick because I thought in my head, we're out here for 42 kilometres, there's no point burning a few matches. Catching him after 5k and then blowing at 25k and finishing second, once I got the time splits and I knew the gaps, I thought it was going to be between me and him. So I closed the gap after about 4.5, 5k. Actually, it was probably about 6.5k. It was 4.5. It was probably about 6.5, 7k I caught him. And then he came back past me as soon as I caught him and wanted to lead. I thought, okay, we're about to turn into a headwind. If you want to lead, that's fine with me. So he led it in. I let him lead into the headwind from about 9k's to 13k, and then just before the turn at 13k, I'll go back a little bit. When I was running with him into the headwind, because we started off, you always start off reasonably quick. We were on 240 marathon pace, which I knew was enough that we wouldn't get caught by people behind. But I could tell we were slowing towards the end of that 45 minutes into the race. So I didn't really want to have to pull away from him that early into the run. I was quite happy to stay with him until 21k-ish, and then if I felt good, put a bit of a dig in and almost make it like a half marathon race for home. But I was getting a bit paranoid and a bit twitchy, so I thought, well, just before the turn at 13k, I'll up the pace. We've got a tailwind then, which is a good place to kind of attack a bit on the run because you're not saving a massive amount of effort behind them. And we'll see if he comes. So put a dig in, upped it to 335k pace for, 4k, something like that. And managed to pull away from him. The gap, I got a time check that I had about a minute and a half at that point. So I thought, right, it's fairly clear that it's going to be hard for him to catch me unless I blow up. So just run at what feels like a nice pace and keep it going. I pretty much did that for the rest of the run. I was getting splits. Obviously, Matt was catching me, but I could kind of do the maths in my head. And I knew as long as I kept it together, it was going to be very unlikely that he was going to catch me because he would have needed to run a minute and 15 faster with about 8-9k to go per mile than me. And I wasn't running great, but I wasn't running slow enough that he would catch me. I think I was running like 610s per mile, 650, maybe 620s. so he'd have to run 5:10s, 5 miles at the end, which is not going to happen. If he did that at the end of an Ironman, it would be unreal. So I kind of knew I had it, but I didn't feel great. Like, it was a bit of a slog, and crossed the line. And to be honest, felt pretty empty, but absolutely ecstatic to finish the season on a high with the win. It really topped the year off for me.
Yeah, it meant a lot to you. I could see from the...
Yeah, I was just totally broken, mate, at the end. Like, emotionally, physically, I think Ironman does that to you, you know. You just... You finish them races and you just feel like you've given it everything out there. It feels like you've gone to war out there, you know. Yeah, not that I've been to war, but that's what I feel like, you know, just totally empty.
So obviously you've done sub-7 this year, pushing the limits of what's possible. What do you actually think the technical limit is of a full Ironman?
What, with conditions like sub-7 where you're drafting?
Yeah, just everything. Like, as long as it's, you know, legal, like you did in sub-7. What do you think the absolute limit is?
I think probably the absolute limit, maybe. I think you could probably go a bit quicker on the bike, not massively mount, maybe like, say, 3 or 4 minutes. Obviously the swim, if you could, like, someone could probably swim sub 45. I mean, if you say 45 flat, on my time that would be, with the conditions that we had, obviously we didn't have that great conditions. I don't think for sub-7s that'd be 8 minutes. That'd probably be another 11. And then the marathon, I think definitely between 2:25 and 2:30 would be possible. You know, with a really solid build up, and if you got off the bike feeling pretty good, so that could be another 10 minutes. I think another 20 to 25 minutes faster than what we did. So I think you could be looking at breaking 6:20. Could be the optimum. You know. That could, but I can't see breaking 6, like, is ever gonna. But maybe 6:20, somewhere around 6:20, 6:25, I think would be around like the pure fastest you could do. Everything went well in preparation. You had an amazing team on the bike. Everyone went well on the bike. Conditions, like, if everything plays its part, you know, because I mean you could get cooler conditions, a little bit cooler conditions for the run. That would make it a little bit quicker as well. The actual run course we had was solid in sub-7. Like, I don't think you could probably get much quicker than that. Obviously the bike course was quicker. It would just be whether or not the guys could ride any quicker. I think you'd have to talk to them and see how much quicker they probably think they could go, or you could get a team to go. And then the swim, obviously, if you were a better swimmer than what I am, 45 minutes on someone's feet is definitely possible, because people are swimming close to that in an Ironman when they're not on someone's feet. So that's possible. That would be like performing to your limit on all 3 disciplines, I think. Alright guys, so that was just a bit of a sum up on how Arizona went. We would have chatted a bit more about like best performance of the year, what I thought was, and my plans for next year, but we'll save that for another video because otherwise it's going to be way too long. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed a bit of an Ironman Arizona wrap up, and catch you next time. Just taking a few weeks off easy at the moment, and then get back training for next year. Hope you guys are having a good time. If it's the end of the season, you're having a break, enjoy it, make the most of it, and then we'll be back to the hard work in middle of December.